Top of it, top of it, top of it. It's your boy Coach One Stack. Man, we tapped in, y'all. And man, I got a banger for you guys today. Right? We getting straight to it. Man, this video is about Steve Harvey. And before I drop this video about how Marjorie Harvey exposes Steve Harvey and how he traded her and other young women to Epstein's circle for financial gain, hey man, go ahead, hit the like button, smash that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell for your boy. Because this came as a shock to me, people. I even had to take notes to make this video, man, because I knew that Steve Harvey was involved with all the Diddy stuff. I knew he was involved with all the Diddy stuff. I mean, come on. Your daughter is dating one of the sons, and then all of a sudden Diddy is dating the son, and now, dating the daughter, and then Diddy and the daughter is on vacation with you and Marjorie, and you don't have a problem with that. The only reason you wouldn't have a problem with that is because you was caught up in the Diddy mess with the Diddy tapes. And to give y'all a little bit of background on Steve Harvey and Marjorie, well, Steve, he left his first wife high and dry. His first wife is actually from the same town in Louisiana that my father's from. He left her high, dry, and homeless and broke for Marjorie Harvey. So let me give you a little backstory on Marjorie, and we'll get into it because I got a video for you guys as well. Hey, Marjorie, hey man, she used to date D-boys. Her last two men before Steve Harvey were major kingpins. One of them still serving life in the federal penitentiary, and one of them that got out. So she's used to D-boys and that money on a high level. So I could see why Steve Harvey would be in Epstein's circle. Can you dig it? But Steve Harvey had been linked to Epstein, and that really caught me off guard, right? Because see, now that all this stuff is going on, a scorned woman, man, ain't nothing to play with, especially when she's your wife. And Marjorie Harvey has sparked all these rumors saying that not only was Steve Harvey and Epstein friends, but Steve Harvey used to basically recruit young women for Epstein under the guise of, he would recruit actors, singers, entertainers under the guise of mentorship, right? Is this mentorship sounding like something? Because we always talking about this mentorship stuff, right? Everybody that's in the industry that's getting caught up doing what they doing, they all about this mentorship. And this mentorship, in this case, dealing with Epstein, you already know what it meant, right? But Marjorie ain't going down alone. Now, see, Steve, when he would recruit these people for Epstein, Marjorie. Now nobody. Just so you know, nobody's word is stronger than your wife's word or your husband's word. That's why they cannot compel a wife or a husband to testify against each other. That's why in some cases people get married so they don't have to testify against each other. But Marjorie Harvey, she states that Steve Harvey used to get compensated by Jeffrey Epstein via cash, donations, all of which came through shell corporations. And if you don't know about that, you got to look it up. So basically, a lot of Steve's wealth, when he just blew up and started getting rich, Marjorie Harvey claims that he was getting that money from Epstein because he was recruiting these young girls. Yeah, guys, I already know, man. It caught me off guard too. That's why I'm leaving this video, and I had to take some notes. Now, with everything going on, man, with that big influx of cash, it's being hard for Steve Harvey to hide his assets. But now sources say, even Marjorie Harvey say, that the FBI have been preparing search warrants as we speak, right? Now, Marjorie Harvey apparently has been distancing herself from Steve, meaning they have property that's tied up together. She's been getting her own bank accounts. She's been distancing herself from social media because, see, when the feds come and they start to seize assets, well, that means that her money is going to be frozen as well, people. That means that Marjorie's money is going to be frozen as well. And see, Marjorie is not a fool. She's not going to go down without a fight. You understand what I'm saying? She's not going to fall with the sinking ship. Like I said, in the case where she dated two D-boys, she testified against them to put them in prison. So what do you think she's going to do to Steve Harvey? Now, as I told you, with this investigation that's looming due to all the Diddy stuff and the Epstein files being released, well, Marjorie Harvey cannot be compelled to testify. But sources say that Marjorie Harvey is a source for the FBI. That means that she is voluntarily giving information, because in the end, it seems to me that when it all falls down, she wants to be able to have her money and have her chips. She's about her chips, like I told you. Her last 2 relationships before Steve Harvey were kingpins. Can you see what I'm saying? That she already spoke. They said she's already been speaking to the FBI. Now, I believe that Steve Harvey is now getting his karma. Honestly, because of how he left his first wife. Like I said, it's bad when a lot of our black entertainers and black men, you know, the woman that they were with, like Kevin Hart did, that when they was broken, they didn't have nothing, they was sleeping in the car. As soon as they get a little bit of money, they kick them off to the side and they want to get the Barbie doll. But Marjorie Harvey is that karma. But let y'all check out video so y'all can see what's going on. Hold up.
The research that I did on my book, that Jeffrey Epstein has always viewed himself as smarter than everybody else, and he also has collected people all along the way, particularly over the 2 decades through his trafficking. And that was always to get secrets and bits of information about individuals that he could pass to other people he trafficked in.
Jeffrey Epstein's newly unsealed emails do not just brush up against the Harvey brand. They drag Marjorie Harvey's name into the same shadowy ecosystem that has already pulled in presidents, princes, and powerful fixers. At the exact moment her marriage to Steve Harvey is allegedly cracking under the weight of a $200 million split. We are looking at 3 forces colliding in late 2025. A disgraced financier's inbox finally opened to Congress, a television empire built on relationship advice, and a wife who insiders claim is now ready to talk under oath about what she saw, what she agreed to, and what she was pushed into during those years when Steve's career was rising fastest. In November 2025, when House committees dumped more than 20,000 pages of Epstein correspondence into the public record, observers immediately focused on the messages about Trump and the White House. But behind those headlines, entertainment attorneys say, were references that alarmed people close to the Harvey household in Atlanta.
In the emails, it is quite clear that Jeffrey Epstein had a wide, almost incalculably wide circle of associates. People who were celebrities, people who were either in foreign governments or leaders of foreign governments, business tycoons, and the like.
We have to be clear from the start. These emails are not a neat client list. And even lawmakers admit the archive released this fall is messy, partial, and politically weaponized. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee first rolled out a curated set of messages on a Wednesday in mid-November 2025, highlighting Epstein describing Trump as borderline insane and saying the former president knew about the girls, before Republicans hit back hours later with more than 20,000 pages they said would correct that narrative and expose selective leaks. Buried in that larger trove, according to legal sources familiar with the divorce preparation, are 2011 messages between Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, whose phrasing, timing, and redactions have now been quietly flagged in internal memos by attorneys working on high-profile marital cases, including the Harveys. Those attorneys are not talking on the record yet, but they are the ones telling us there is a name, or something close to a name, that mirrors Marjorie's in a chain that later reappears in sealed family court filings.
Interview is and never was part of the Epstein files. She was sentenced in 2025. This was an interview by Trump's lawyer to protect Trump from the fallout about the Epstein files. What this really is nothing but a sketchy PR stunt by the Department of Justice. And we have seen this movie before. The Maxwell interview is to the Epstein files what the Barr letter was to the Mueller investigation.
When we look back at April 2011, Epstein was already a convicted offender negotiating his so-called sweetheart deal, while still trading emails with Maxwell in a tone that experts now describe as arrogant and informal, riddled with typos and double commas, as if he never believed any of this would be read aloud in Congress one day. One of those emails, released with significant redactions, refers to a woman spending hours at his residence with a then future president, while Maxwell replies in a way linguists have said resembles coded compliance rather than shock. On its face, that message has nothing to do with the Harvey family. But what has drawn quiet attention in 2025 is how that same thread, or at least its header and timestamp, is mirrored in discovery requests that sources say were filed this fall by lawyers representing a spouse in a major entertainment divorce. Those sources will not say the name out loud, but when they talk about a Southern socialite who later reinvented herself as the polished half of a motivational power couple, it does not take much for viewers to connect the dots. Fast forward to January 2019, when Epstein was still alive and emailing journalist Michael Wolff about Trump's first term. venting that he knew how dirty Donald is, and complaining about fixers flipping and financial disclosures. In another newly public message from that same year, he writes that Trump knew about the girls and references Ghislaine being asked to stop, language that Democrats seized on this November as proof of prior knowledge, while Republicans rushed out the fuller context. Again, on the surface, this is a DC fight about who protected whom. But what matters for Steve and Marjorie now is that all of these messages came from records subpoenaed from Epstein's estate. Legal insiders claim those same estate records are exactly what one side in the Harvey split is now trying to pry open through subpoenas. Not to relitigate Epstein, but to establish a pattern of powerful men using hush agreements, private jets, and unspoken understandings to manage the reputational fallout of their private encounters.
Never sue the person who hit you after a car accident.
Telling you guys
I just
it's
got
getting deep over here,
$100,000
man.
for an accident. I was.
Now, I'm a Christian, but I ain't that good a Christian.
While all of that was simmering in sealed dockets and committee rooms, Steve Harvey was still on stage and on camera throughout 2023 and 2024, selling himself as a reformed husband and relationship expert. The man who had made mistakes, survived 2 divorces, and finally found salvation in a 3rd marriage that he presented as bulletproof. In August 2023, as rumors flared online that Marjorie had stepped out with a bodyguard and a private chef and was allegedly angling for a $200 million payout, Steve addressed a crowded business festival in Atlanta and told fans he and his wife were fine, brushing the gossip off as foolishness and insisting he did not have time for rumor mills. Around the same time, Marjorie posted a link to a religious blog titled How to Handle Being Lied About, framing herself as the target of online cruelty rather than the source of any wrongdoing. Publicly, the message was unity, faith, and family values. Privately, according to people with knowledge of the situation, lawyers in both camps were already collecting digital paper trails that could become bargaining chips if the marriage really collapsed. That is where the alleged connection to Epstein's inbox becomes more than just a conspiracy forum talking point. Sources familiar with the negotiations say Marjorie's camp has quietly explored whether any of Epstein's estate records, now in the hands of Congress and federal agencies, intersect with trips, events, or social circles that overlapped with her life before and after she married Steve in 2007. Remember, this is a woman whose first husband, Jim Townsend, was sentenced to life in prison in the 1990s for attempting to purchase 40 kilos of hard substances, only to be pardoned by Barack Obama after serving 26 years, and whose second husband, Donnell Woods, was also reportedly involved in large-scale smuggling.
I'd say that Steve Harvey was in a perfect position to help me get clemency. I wouldn't have to go through what I went through, but God's hand.
When new disclosures in 2017 and 2023 resurfaced those old cases, Townsend himself claimed that investigators once had enough on Marjorie to threaten charges, and that he cut a deal in part to keep her name out of indictments. In 2025, attorneys are now asking whether some of the same federal systems that tracked Epstein's estate could hold traces of those earlier investigations, and whether that history makes her look like a victim of men who operated in the shadows, a willing partner, or something in between.
He took my Winton. Took my Winton from me. He turned my son against me.
For Steve, the stakes go far beyond who gets which house or which residual check from syndicated game shows. His entire modern brand is built on preaching loyalty, discernment, and what men really think about commitment, from his best-selling relationship books to his motivational tours. When his ex-wife, Mary Shackelford, accused him years ago of cheating, emotional harm, and worse, and later filed a $60 million lawsuit claiming soul destruction and a laundry list of supposed civil rights violations, a Los Angeles judge ultimately threw the case out and sent it back to Texas, while Steve's legal team blasted the allegations as frivolous and completely false. That win allowed him to frame Mary as bitter and himself as vindicated. If Marjorie now walks into a courtroom backed by references to Epstein's emails and alleged attempts to keep her future testimony sealed, the optics flip. Suddenly, the man who mocked rumor culture from the InvestFest stage looks, at minimum, like someone who has spent years trying to keep the most explosive parts of his private life off the record. Industry insiders say that is why we are hearing whispers about subpoenas aimed specifically at Epstein's estate and any overlapping travel logs, guest lists, or sealed correspondence that might place familiar names in unfamiliar settings. They stress that an email header is not a conviction, and that being copied on a message does not make someone part of any criminal conduct. But they also admit that in the court of public opinion, context is everything. A socialite whose first 2 husbands were linked to large-scale substance rings, whose daughter later moved in the same luxury circles as a music mogul, now serving a federal sentence tied to coercive private encounters, and whose current husband once met with Trump at Trump Tower in 2017 and faced backlash for it, does not get the benefit of the doubt when Epstein's name appears anywhere near hers.
You got to understand, she's not going to be speaking on none of that because her whole thing is to hide her past.
And if, as sources allege, Steve's team has been fighting behind closed doors to keep Marjorie from having to give a full deposition that might touch any of this, then what happened on November 12, 2025 takes on a much darker meaning than a simple website refresh. This divorce is not about love. It is about leverage. And the moment Marjorie's legal team started peeling back the layers, they reportedly found something Steve Harvey never wanted anyone to see. A pattern of money moves, legal gambles, and quiet cleanups that suddenly look very different now that her lawyers are treating every number as a bargaining chip, not a blessing. We already know Steve has been through courtroom wars before. In 2017, his ex-wife Mary Shackelford filed a civil claim accusing him of destroying her life and seeking more than $60 million, using that now infamous phrase about her soul to describe what she says was done to her during and after their breakup. A judge later dismissed the case, but the filing itself laid out pages of accusations about emotional devastation, financial loss, and a former spouse who felt erased from the empire she says she helped build. For years, Steve's camp framed that as a nuisance suit from a bitter ex. Now, with Marjorie allegedly pushing for more than $200 million, that old number looks less like a one-off and more like a warning shot that he managed to dodge the first time.
And so she called me, and she just went off on me.
Insiders point out that Steve's finances have not been as straightforward as the motivational speeches make them sound. In 2024, entertainment accountants began whispering about sudden liquidations and quiet transfers. Properties moved into trusts, production interests restructured, speaking tour revenue rerouted through fresh entities with unfamiliar names. On paper, these can all be smart wealth management decisions for a man staring down retirement. But when lawyers for a spouse start combing through those same filings, every sale, every refinance, every strategic shift can be presented as evidence that someone saw a storm coming and started moving valuables to higher ground before the first legal lightning bolt hit. So why would a woman who has stayed publicly loyal for nearly 2 decades suddenly demand what sources describe as half of a near billion fortune? People close to the situation say it is not just about cash, it is about protection. The word they keep using is insurance.
She used to hate, see, that's what I'm saying. I'm telling all, y'all. She said, and it was like, she used to check news with big lips.
Not in the sense of a policy from a company, but as leverage in human form. The more she knows, the more she has allegedly tolerated, the higher the price of her silence becomes. If the stories about sealed dockets, estate subpoenas, and old investigations are even partially accurate, then Marjorie is not simply asking to walk away comfortable. She is, according to one industry veteran, pricing out what it will cost Steve to make sure certain questions never get answered under oath.
Did you know right after you were born, your legal name
see,
and
I bet
identity
y'all
was
didn't know that,
converted
did you?
into a corporate entity or legal...
That is where Marjorie Harvey enters the picture, not as a villain, but as the unpredictable variable nobody in this family can fully control anymore. In 2019, the same year Epstein was sending emails that referenced young women in his spaces and hinting that powerful men knew more than they admitted, Lori was being photographed across courts with Sean Diddy Combs. From Manhattan sidewalks in matching outfits, to sun-drenched lunches in Italy with Steve and Marjorie at the same table, to lavish getaways in Mexico. The images painted a story the family never confirmed, but never fully escaped either.
Her mother is 54 years old. Her mother is 5 years older.
A rising model stepdaughter, a legendary music figure decades older, and parents who seemed, at least in those photos, comfortable enough to dine and smile through it. Fast forward to 2024, when federal agents kicked in doors, seized hard drives, and began parading a parade of allegations about high-end freak-offs, coercive encounters, and private sessions involving paid companions and controlled substances inside Diddy's world. Court documents and press reports described a secret lifestyle built on power imbalances, cash, and carefully controlled access. When rumor sites and a handful of legal bloggers began whispering that Lori's name had appeared in at least one sealed affidavit linked to financial settlements and guest lists in that orbit, the story stopped being just another messy Hollywood breakup. Suddenly, the glamorous photos from 2019 looked less like harmless summer fun and more like potential exhibits in a much darker series of investigations.
What's the best advice they've given you? Just remember that you're the prize at all times. Boom, best advice.
The question that investigators, bloggers, and armchair analysts keep circling is brutal. Was Lori simply an on-again, off-again companion in those years? Or was she, knowingly or not, part of a wider ecosystem that her mother had seen from the inside long before? Remember, Steve legally adopted Lori in 2007, the same...
And that's the thing I gotta talk about, y'all. as you see, Marjorie Harvey has been gaining that evidence against Steve since they got in a relationship. She's used to dating D-boys, and let that be a lesson to you guys. She is the one that has the keys to what everything Steve and Jeffrey Epstein had going on. She's the one that can give you the tape. She's the one that can testify. Because remember, they cannot compel your wife to testify against you in a court of law. So all the information that Marjorie is giving, she's giving it willingly. And basically it's just a blackmail thing. And if Steve doesn't give her what she wants, well then, now that those Epstein files have been dropped, she can drop all the receipts. But I got another video about this to come though. I ain't want to keep y'all on, guys. If you like this content, if you think that Steve Harvey had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, like his current wife is saying that they did, and saying that he used to just send people to him for mentorship. That's what his wife says, y'all, not me. You heard it. That's what his wife said. Leave that in the comments. Leave how you feel about this video in the comments if you think that, that Diddy has something to do with Epstein. But Epstein was connected to a lot of powerful people in that black book, and P. Diddy was just another reminder of it. And now Marjorie Harvey is going to get her money in the end. She's going to get over half because she knows where all the skeletons are buried. Can you dig what I'm saying? But other than that, man, like the content, like the video, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. And remember, guys, be blessed, don't get stressed, get plenty of rest, and never get finessed and stay out of trouble.